Another thing, one more thing, and it really does connect well with what has gone on before. What we just discussed about the Holy Spirit orchestrating the events of not only individuals' lives, but of human history as a whole. Let's just really kind of narrow the scope down to you. God calls you. He may not necessarily have a call on your life for you to quit your job, go through Bible college, go through seminary, do a doctor of ministry degree or something, and then go and found a church or go to the mission field or something like that. But make no mistake about it, He has a calling on every one of our lives. Paul will say, for example, in Romans, everything works to the good of those who love God and are called according to His purpose. Or in 1 Corinthians, that we are the called of God. And so we've got these passages in the Bible that talk about everybody, not just pastors, not just missionaries, who are called by God. You do indeed have a calling on your life. In fact, even you'll listen sometimes to TV advertisements, or you will hear people talking out in the world, if you go to a convention or something like that, and they'll be talking about the calling. That's not my calling. This isn't my calling. That's not my lane, or whatever. And the reality of it is that all of us are recognizing that we have a puzzle piece to play in that big picture of the whole puzzle. That God has uniquely gifted us and given us opportunities for education and for life experience and stuff like that. And He then opens up doors to fit us in where we just really function very well in that particular situation. Whether you're a construction worker, you're a teacher, you're a nurse, you're an educator, whatever, God has a plan for your life, no doubt about it. The whole issue is, will we be willing to sublimate our own will, our own desires, our own plans, aspirations and what have you, allow God to have His way, guide our lives in ways that are going to be more fruitful rather than less, more filled with a sense of satisfaction and purpose and fulfillment, or less? The whole issue is that, yes, we are called, and as called, we need to submit to that calling. We need to yield to that calling. Look at this, what happens in Acts chapter 13. Paul, Barnabas, and a bunch of other folks were involved in a big prayer meeting in a city north of Israel called Antioch. It's in Turkey today. It says, while they were ministering to the Lord and fasting, the Holy Spirit said, that's a really interesting phrase, because you got to wonder how He said it. This is years after. This is miles away from Jerusalem and the first day of Pentecost, but the Holy Spirit is still speaking. Let me just encourage you in this respect. He's still speaking today too. It's not a lack of Him not having a voice. It's not about Him not being able to articulate His will for us. Rather, it's more on our end, this issue of hearing from the Holy Spirit. It's more of our developing a sensitivity on our end, being willing to listen for what God is saying to us, because we are called. All of us are called. Primary tenet of the Protestant Reformation, the priesthood of every believer, which goes back all the way to Exodus 19, verse 6. Would that all of God's people prophesy, and would that all of us represent Him. So, yeah, no doubt that we're called. But the Holy Spirit says, set apart for me Barnabas and Saul for the work to which I have called them. Barnabas is, they're being called by God. You're called by God. I'm called by God. It may be to very, very different versions of an altar, what it might look like, very different versions of the calling, but make no mistake about it, God's got a big plan. And He's got enough for all of us to be fully involved, fully engaged, fully submitted to, and to fit in right where we fit best, where we're the most productive for Him.